Item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Is there any public comment?
Could I just make a public comment?
Okay, sure.
Dr. Barr?
Oh yeah, you'll have to denounce your throne and.
And I'm not sure we're going to, well, it's not agendized or anything. I attended the State of the County breakfast, and I am so pleased to be able to share that the national anthem was sung by Ginger Scheit, Randy's daughter. And I was just, because I saw one of our employees with a shirt on, and I knew him, with our logo, and then I questioned, I said, oh, that's great, CCWD is here at the State of the County breakfast. And he said, no, I'm here because of my daughter. She's apparently a finalist in the Calaveras County Talent sessions that they have all over, and so she sang the national anthem, and I just thought that was just really great. She did a wonderful job, so I just wanted to share that with you.
Nice. Well, thank you. Okay. Looking at the agenda then, we're moving the closed session up after the consent agenda?
Yes,
then?
we've got a couple of people to join us by phone on the conference, on the closed session, so we wanted to accommodate schedules to be on the call.
Okay. Okay, great. Item number 3, the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items may be acted or will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion, and any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Item 3A, approval of minutes for the board meeting of August 17th, 2016. 3B, review board of directors monthly timesheets for August 2016. And 3C, discussion action to ratify claim summary number 534. Secretarial fund in the amount of $4,576,763.33 for August of 2016. Do we have a motion?
Move to accept.
We have a motion by Bertha to accept. Boy.
Second.
Second by Director Radman. Okay. Can we take it to vote?
Dr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Dr. Mills?
Yes.
Dr. Underhill?
Yes.
President Strange?
Yes. So in a 5-0 vote, we approve items 3A, B, and C. Okay, item number 4, closed session. At this time, I'd like item that we'll be discussing in closed section are items 4A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. The board will be considering whether to initiate litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D4, 2 potential adjudicatory administrative proceedings. Wow, I said that right. 4B, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code 54956.8. Property is the appropriative water rights owned by Calaveras County Water District. District negotiators David E. Cameron and Kevin O'Brien. 4C, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code 54956.8. Properties, or the property APNs 073-042-127, 073-042-129, and property 046-019-051, Valley Springs. District negotiators Dave Egerton and Robbie Kramer. Under negotiation is the price and the terms. 4D, conference with labor negotiations, SEIU Local 1021, Government Code 54957.6. Negotiators Dave Egerton and Stacy Lawler. And 4E, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, Government Code 54956.93A. Any public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public meeting and go to closed session. Yeah, we'll go to the other room.
Yes, yeah.
Is council here today?
He's on his way for the closed session. Dave Cameron is coming. Also Matt.
Okay,
So, yeah, he's gonna be here.
Getting
good.
rates on his water rates are already deep growing trees because of the tree mortality. I thought we could just address it in general, maybe like tree mortality, watering restrictions.
Yeah, I would put it in a very broad
Very broad.
context.
And then we got something on customer service return checks. But it,
Yeah.
there's gonna be no, attachments on the tree mortality and water conservation. It's just a broad discussion to allow him to bring it up.
And that's great because we have a tree mortality with Fire Safe Council tomorrow night. And I just completed a tree mortality discussion last Tuesday. So that will fit. What we really want to discuss though is what are the pros and cons? Are we saving trees by making this decision?
Well, he wants a price break, and right now, I'm up to 18-year rates.
No, I understand.
Yes.
That's fine, but I really want to have the discussion surrounding what's the value if people making that decision. And maybe Joel needs to be present.
Well, he's gonna be there because he's got the very next item.
I was going to
So, yeah, you're right, it's something that the DWR,
Rick
the
talked
State
him
Water
into
Resource
taking a book.
Control Board, is in conflict with California.
I had thought about
California
that.
Water, State Water
Let me
Resource
do
Control Board
some
says
more
no.
thinking.
And we're
Okay.
gonna follow DWR first.
Tell you what, I'll make you
But
a
I
deal.
just wanna have a
You
general
buy
discussion.
these,
Yeah.
and next time I'll buy
No
it, next
decision,
year I'll buy
I
it.
would just give him,
Corvette.
opportunity to speak.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Make a deal.
We're gonna be ready to have a preliminary discussion on purchasing contracting policy.
We're looking at bringing that in probably October.
Okay.
Totally after the audit and.
Yeah, we've already
No,
done
that's-
auditors
that's a
and we got some
process.
ideas,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're right, don't put it in front of the audit.
Exactly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Now, stretch this to 3 hours in case I don't get done with Bonnie in time.
What's that?
I said, stretch this to 3 hours in case I don't get done with Bonnie in time.
That ain't gonna happen.
Nice try.
You have your keys?
Yes, of course I have my keys. I'm not like somebody else I know.
I lost the keys to her car in Pocatello, Idaho.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
They're using the small conference room, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
close.
Yeah, it's director envy going on here, I can tell.
I had the
He
potential,
got his chance 3 years ago, and,
I had
or
the
whenever it
potential
was.
for 5 meetings today.
Wow.
We'll get 4.
Is the video okay, Stacy? Okay, let's go ahead and reconvene. We have nothing to report from closed session, excuse me. So no reportable action. We'll go to item number 6, new business, 6A, discussion action regarding proposed legislation on advancing biomass efforts in response to the bark beetle issues. Dave?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, thank you. This agenda item is to request that the board adopt a resolution of support for a request that has been filed with the Association of California Water Agencies, ACWA, for a legislative proposal for the next state legislative session. The state legislative calendar is on an annual basis, and as we come into the next session, we're looking at requesting ACWA's support in moving forward legislation that would benefit our efforts to protect our communities and our watersheds in the face of the tree mortality problem that we're having with the epidemic catastrophe, basically, that we're having with the bark beetle bug kill. I noted this to the board. I explained this in my GM report in August, that this was an effort that some of us that are part of the ACWA Headwaters implementation of the policy principles for better headwaters management, that effort that was done through ACWA, which of course our agency played a lead role, and Director Dean at the time. I continue to work on that effort and share the implementation side of it with ACWA, and some of us within that group were very interested in moving forward with a proposal for ACWA to either support or actually sponsor legislation in the state legislature to advance our forest management efforts, and particularly around the bug tree epidemic problem that we have. In really, in looking at it from the state side and from the bug tree response, one of our key limitations that we have is the fact that we have very limited capacity within our biomass power facilities that actually process the vegetative material that a lot of which will be coming off the land with the, hopefully, ideally we get this stuff off the land so that we can reduce our fuel loading, which now takes a very dangerous landscape and makes it exponentially more dangerous and risks a catastrophic fire. But unfortunately, our situation in California, we have a number of our biomass facilities, the contracts that they have for selling the power that they generate, the prices that they are guaranteed under those contracts are expiring this year, and they've already expired a number of different facilities in the state. And so they're in a situation where they're going from the price paid for the power that's dropping to a very small fraction. They're losing, they're looking at the purchase price of their power dropping from 10 or 12 cents a kilowatt hour to as low as 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Basically, they're being paid on par with other renewable power like solar and wind, and that's now dropping to a price that's only being offered at the level of natural gas. And so that fundamentally changes the economics of the operation of these plants and makes it not possible for them to keep their doors open. So at the very time when we need more and expanded capacity to process vegetative material, we're actually seeing the closure of many of our biomass facilities. We've experienced that obviously in Ione with our facility there that's not in operation now. And that poses problems for us as an agency and our government agencies in county, and trying to deal with the dead trees that we're trying to take off the landscape that we're going to have to deal with on our own property, and it affects our residents. And the ability for them to respond and to be able to have a place to send this material and get it off their landscape becomes a much more complicated, more expensive equation when you don't have a location to send it to for processing that's anywhere close to your community, and makes for the trucking and hauling costs and everything else very expensive. So the idea with this proposal, and long way to get there, but the idea is, how do we address the underlying problem economically that is shuttering our facilities at a time when we need to keep them open? And frankly, we need to expand them. We need to have more facilities. We need to have, facilities in our own county. I know there's a growing awareness about that and desire to have some kind of operating biomass facility here so we can get the stuff as easily as possible to a place that can be disposed of safely. And really, I think the consensus, and this is a shared opinion of officials at the state, is trying to deal with that economic issue of the biomass plants and trying to provide some mechanism to where there can be a sustainable pricing that can actually keep the doors open. One of the efforts, and this is why this proposal for the resolution of support was not brought to the board sooner, because there was actually an effort underway in the legislature to try to use some of the greenhouse gas reduction funds under the cap and trade system that already are on hand. There's several $1 billion on hand at the state to try to allocate some of those to try to further bolster the pricing of these facilities. That effort was driven in 2015. Assemblymember Dolly in the Northern Sierra actually had a bill, AB 590, where he was trying to do exactly that. It made it through one house of the legislature with almost unanimous support and came very close to passing out of the legislature, but was ultimately did not make it. And it had broad support on both sides of the aisle. But unfortunately that stalled and didn't make it through. There was a similar effort this year to do something just like that within the budget trailer bill process as they move forward with implementation of a budget for the state. There was an effort to again allocate some of those funds under the GGRF program to the biomass facilities. And obviously, not surprisingly, there's a big fight for those funds and all kinds of different programs and areas of the state want to gain access to those. And so that's a complicated process and many competing interests. But the idea was even a small fraction of what's in hand already by the state could make a real difference for keeping these facilities open. But that was not successful, and that language was not incorporated. So that's why at this point I went ahead and filed this by the deadline of September 2nd with Aqua, and am now bringing this to the board to ask for a resolution of support in this effort. I want to be very clear, the idea, what's submitted is kind of modeled on what Assemblymember Dolly submitted in 590, but that's only one possible avenue. The underlying objective of this is to try to bring to the state's attention that we have to find some way to make it economically possible for these facilities to stay in production. And whether that's the GGRF funds or some other mechanism, this is not to determine that pathway. It's simply really the important thing is to keep that issue alive in front of the legislature and committee so that we can continue to hammer home how important this is. And I think it couldn't be more important now with the bug tree epidemic. I mean, we're looking at, last count, 66 million trees dead. I've heard as many as maybe 1 million trees a week are dying, over 100,000 trees a day. We're going to see the next Butte fire. There's no doubt about it, and it's devastating to our interest in our water infrastructure if we experience that again, and we see that in the Moke and Stanislaus and again in the Calaveras. So this is something that I believe is in our interest as an agency, in our community's interest, in the safety of our community to work towards. And my goal is that I really want to work closely with our legislators, our senator and assembly member, and also other areas of the state that have a joint interest on this. And I do think Assemblymember Dolly and some of the other members who have biomass facilities in their districts in the North State in particular will be very interested in it, and I hope they will support it. But as well, we have other areas of the state through the Aqua effort. Irvine Ranch Water District is one. Steve Lamar, one of the directors there, is co-chaired the Aqua Headwater Policy effort with Bob Dean, and he's a strong proponent of this, and really pace and scale of forest management and really accelerating that is something he's worked hard for, and he similarly wants to bring this proposal for a resolution of support to his board to try to advocate for this from a Southern California perspective, where they're receiving water from our lands that are in jeopardy, and in fact some of even their own local watersheds are in jeopardy as well. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions of the board. And again, I feel like this is one that in the face of the bug tree problem, we really need to keep this front and center in front of the state. And if this is not the vehicle with this funding source is not the right vehicle, then let's find one that is, and try to make this happen.
I'd first then want to support that we pass a resolution to support the state legislative proposal with Aqua in the response to the drought and resulting tree mortality epidemic. We have a second. Okay, can we open it up to discussion then? Anybody have questions for Dave?
I do see that you will be contacting the adjoining districts, because that was one of the questions. Have you informed the other?
There's a lot of outreach that needs to be done on this, that's for sure. And we're not gonna go alone. This is not an issue that's just our issue. I mean, this is really a broad issue, and frankly, I mean, and if it's just our region, you know, that's advocating for this, it's probably not gonna be successful, and that's why it's gotta be broad, but at the core, it's gotta be a partnership of our local agencies and our local representatives, and I totally get that. So
Yeah,
we're
because-
setting up meetings right now to make that happen, and I think it's gonna be a different, I mean, the meetings that we're gonna have in Sacramento with some of these key legislative staff, or Steve and I are going to be joining together to go in there, and it's kind of an unusual thing, I think, to have a big Southern California agency sitting, you know, together with the Sierra Nevada agency to say, this is all of our issue, and we need to come up with a solution for it.
I know, because on a local level, Dennis and I, as we go around, and, you know, Scott or Jeff or Terry, you know, we hear it every meeting that we are attending, and, you know, again, we need solutions to this, with this major problem. And so, as a matter of fact, just to put it locally, I even heard that we had some trees dying down at White Pines behind the dam. You know, that's how close it is to us.
We definitely are going to lose trees that have and will continue to lose trees on our property, which we will have to deal with. And as part of that, through our local tree mortality task force and the outreach of OES through that, we are preparing an application that we will ultimately submit to the state as part of the effort to get reimbursement for that. Right now, on the tree removal cost, the state is a declared emergency of the state. I mean, we've got, about 10 counties in declared emergency within our region, and then we've got an overriding state emergency. Unfortunately, the FEMA and the federal side is not declared an emergency yet, but we at least have it on the state side, and so that's a 75% cost match. And I know, you know, President Strange, you've been very close to this and seeing the work that's being done right now to remove the trees and that. And Director Mills, your involvement with the tree mortality, efforts across the county, and so we're all going to have a major expense on our hands. We had a Region 3 meeting last week of Aqua, and, you know, talking to some of the other members of the other agencies in our region. Some of them already have $250,000 price tag that they're having to deal with on trees that they're going to have to remove, and that, you know, we're just at the beginning of this problem.
No, go ahead.
Well, because one of the biggest issues is the fact that, and all of you heard it, the fact that there's no money to take residential trees.
That's changing.
And, well, okay, that's changing, yeah. CAL FIRE is coming up, and as a matter of fact, our local Gary Johnson, fire chief, is going to be spearheading, getting together some grant writing
Good.
to help
Good.
towards
That's
those.
great to hear.
Let's throw, the Utica Water, although their primary responsibility is to deliver water and provide power for their two agencies, their planning grant that they're working on right now for biomass is a beginning step, because there's a lot of hurdles that have to be, a lot of boxes need to be checked before you can jump into that menu. And to be sure that all of those, is the grid sufficiently sized, and what other things do we have to challenge? But the primary thing is, do we have 10 to 20 years worth of dead trees out there that is gonna make this a long-term solution? And so maybe somewhere in the scheme of CCWD, that the agenda item needs to be brought forward to discuss how does CCWD fit into biomass as well. That it has to be a public-private partnership. It just cannot be public only.
Yeah.
But every agency is going to be impacted in some way with this. So it's not so much at the cost, it's how do you minimize the damage? How do you minimize the negatives? And I'm even looking at our amount of green waste that we're bringing into the landfill, and is that shortening the landfill site out at Rock Creek? So if we can solve that, and that gives us more money to do something else, there's a lot of tentacles that go into this and how this plays out, but every agency is gonna have to explore where they fit and how it works.
And just to let you know that, that's very much on our minds at a staff level. How do we assist in this response effort in our county at a local level? And we had a field visit with Brian Moss from the county deputy CEO and Josh White, unit chief of CAL FIRE, to look at our 15 acres that we have, what was to be our office site adjacent to Angels Road and 49. And that looked like a promising site for them to locate one of the curtain burners that they would be using to incinerate a lot of the materials, the vegetative materials that we and actually private citizens would be bringing in, trying to get off the landscape with a bug kill. That was brought to the Board of Supervisors. Unfortunately, they didn't make the decision to move on that. So instead, they're looking at other options. But I did this week. I've actually had a discussion with the battalion chief in Arnold about trying to locate one of those up in the Arnold area, actually closer to the community affected. And so that's something that Robbie Kramer from our office is going to be touring some properties with him up there to see if there's a good location. I mean, in my mind, that's, if there's a way we can do it, I mean, that benefits us. We have a place to take the trees that we take off our land. If we can open that up to our residents, all of that is within our watershed. Again, that really concerns me. We're incredibly lucky that the fire that we did experience didn't jump into the Stanislaus watershed. It very easily could have. I know, listening to, Josh and his incident command at that time, they were very concerned about that. And so this further compounds that danger that we see to such a critical watershed. I think that we've got to find a way to get these facilities. I mean, we got these curtain burners at CAL FIRE that were provided in response to two of them provided in response to the tree mortality, and those have just been sitting, it's my understanding, down in Fresno, Merced, and not used. And we need to get those here and get them operational. So.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, in regards to the strategy, it seems like the importance is, this is not about creating electricity. And I think that we have to make the government understand it's not about creating electricity. It's about lessening the threat of catastrophic wildfire, which I would love a measurement of, the greenhouse gases that catastrophic wildfire creates compared to, emissions from these plants, which is the main reason that they're not subsidized like solar is because, the governor's afraid of these emissions. But, it almost seems like, we should be getting, carbon credits for disposing of these trees in a manner that at least has a byproduct of electricity. So I just wonder if the strategy is going to be, we need to subsidize these for power, or if we just need to say, look, the threat to air quality by leaving these trees unattended is far greater than if we take them and actually use them to create electricity. I mean, what is the ultimate strategy going to be? Is it?
Yeah, great point, Director Davidson. I've heard blanking on his name. Steve Brink, who's with the California Forestry Association, is an advocate on biomass and has an incredible knowledge of this, and he's explained the air quality benefits as opposed to an uncontrolled fire, the emissions associated with that as opposed to a controlled facility that you have with a biomass power facility. It's as I recall, he was saying it's at least 90% less pollutant impact as a result of that. So these obviously are issues that the state has a big interest in. I mean, it's the effects of these fires, obviously. And they have to know that. I mean, thousands of people that put their lives in harm's way, and all the money that has to come in response to that, and just the devastation to the people affected.
It's becoming so apparent. Even like I believe yesterday I went driving home and I was like, that's smoky again. I wonder which fire. And sometimes these fires are hundreds of miles away. Yeah. But, my air quality, as far as I'm concerned, has been affected by one thing in the last 4 or 5 years, and it's catastrophic wildfire. I mean, it is something that you can see every single day. And I just wish that the state would recognize that, you know, this is a problem that is, it affects everybody. You know, and we have a solution, but it is almost as if we have to, I mean, you know, I think the federal emergency would be a terrific thing, but, I mean, when are they gonna recognize that these dead trees are a pending emergency for every county that has it? You know, I mean, I just wish there was a way that we could convey that point without having another 400,000 acre fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think, you know, we did get some momentum with the formation of a statewide tree mortality task force, the governor's order declaration of emergency. There's been a lot of attention and energy put into that, but we've got to actually change we've got to see resulting, you know, things that are coming out of the legislature, legal changes, things that can happen to actually make it happen on the ground. I mean, you know, the people that are having to respond to these fires, the officials that are responding to it, they get it, and they're talking about, we've got to have a place to send this. I mean, you hear the Forest Service and the regional forester talk about, you know, one of the greatest, you know, a couple of the major reasons why they are not able to accelerate the pace and scale of forest restoration to the level that everybody, you know, around them is pushing for, is because one of the real problems is dealing with the vegetative mass, you know, and that really turns these projects upside down economically. And if the only option is to pile it up and burn it, it just poses all kinds of challenges financially and air quality and all that. And it's you know, it's our ability to really make a difference on this. And of course, you know, we're the ones that are most directly affected by it immediately. So, you know, this is, you know, one small way I think that we can continue to try to press with the state to do something about it.
Good. Director Radman, any comments?
No.
I just want to say a few things and really touch on what you're talking about, Dave, and that's that we're in this mess not only because of the drought, but because, you know, we've overstocked our forests because we haven't been able to go in and thin and cut and do the things that a lot of environmental protection advocates have chosen to rewrite, you know, our federal management forest plans. And I hope this is a lesson that we can all learn, because when I'm out in the field, when I see fewer big trees, I don't see the bug kill. I don't see the issue of competition for soil moisture that you see when you have a lot of overstocked forests that, you know, all the trees are relatively the same height, but there's just too many trees trying to grab what little moisture is available, and that ends up killing all the trees. And so it goes back to forest management, but I think for us in a water district, it's very important for us to keep perspective on why we're in this game. And it's really because of, you know, the potential threat to our water quality and also the potential impacts of water quantity and runoff. And without that nexus, you know, then I would say we need to punt this over to the CAL FIRE and the Forest Service and let other agencies deal with that and look at our staff time to do other things. But that's not, you know, the situation. I mean, with a wildfire like that and the increased runoff, as well as bad runoff, so to speak, or poor water quality, it's an issue. But at the same time, a lot of downed organic matter in the soil increases soil percolation. It slows runoff down and it gets the water into the ground. And so from that perspective, organic matter in the soil is very important. And if we remove all of the trees, we're going to potentially lose some of that organic matter. So it's that balance that plays, but you know, into considerations of what trees or how many, or, you know, developing some sort of thresholds in these different areas. And there's a lot of science that goes into it, I don't doubt that. But I think the lesson again is we have a climate that we just don't know where we're going to be. Let's go in and manage our forests in a way, especially for the trees, those large trees, where we're not overstocked. We have kind of the old growth forest type of perspective, and that you have fewer, larger trees, and that ends up providing some significant wildlife habitat for those native species that evolved around that. And until we have a buy-in from those that are talking about the greenhouse gas emissions and whether or not we should cut trees anyway, and you know, everybody's got to understand that we can't continue to sit on our laurels and what we've done in the past, because it just isn't working, and that's pretty obvious. So I'll get off my soapbox from that standpoint, but, uh-oh, now I've got Scott. I knew I could have
One
been.
quick comment, and then
Stick
we'll
up
be
for the
done.
Sierra Club real quick.
I just wanted, I am certainly in support of this proposed legislation, and it is just one drop in the bucket, and we've obviously heard there's a lot of other things that we do need to do. And I do agree with Terry's comment that this is a water quantity problem, and that every tree in the forest is a straw in the ground, and taking water, there is an overcrowded situation. And this biomass situation, or the opportunity for clearing forests and having a place to put it is I think vital to the solution to any proposal. And so with that, I do certainly agree with this proposed legislation.
I want to say one thing too, is that right now Sierra Mountain Construction that has a contract for Caltrans on Highway 4 to clear the hazard trees along the highway corridor, they're looking for a yard to process or to bring their wood in and process chips and whatnot. They're looking for about 15 acres up country in that, above Murphy's or at Murphy's and above. So there might be the opportunity as the district is looking for some of those yards. I would, encourage you to reach out. There's a fellow named Kevin, his phone number. He's representing, I think it's one of the managers with Sierra Mountain Construction.
I'll follow up after the meeting if you'd
Okay.
like to grab that. You bet.
Okay,
You bet.
cool, yeah. So, anyway, any other comments?
Oh, how many acres do we have? 70 or 50 acres right along Highway 4, where we have our treatment plant? That would be a
At
spot.
actually, are you thinking of,
No. Up in Arnold.
in Arnold? In the Arnold wastewater plant is exactly one of the, we think that's probably the
Oh,
most likely
okay.
site to do
Oh, good.
something
Yeah,
with the Caltrans, excuse me, the Cal Fire. The one thing to note, the way my conversations with Cal Fire staff in the county, this would be a mutual partnership that we would have together, and they would actually provide staffing around the clock when these are in operation. So, everything would be set up in a very thoughtful, very safe manner, we don't have to speculate about the potential water supply effects of this kind of event if we don't deal with the fire risk. I mean,
Right.
our staff is spending a big part of their time working on the pretreatment at Jenny Lynn just to deal with that very issue. So we know what it means.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comment? See none, can we take this resolution that's on the agenda to vote? Or, I'm sorry, do we, yeah, we do. We have go ahead.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Ryan?
Yes.
Director Mills?
Yes.
Director Underhill?
Yes.
President Strange?
Yes. So in a vote 5-0, or 5-0-0, the resolution number 2016-53, the Calaveras County Water District Board of Directors have approved the support of the state legislative proposal to the Association of California Water Agencies in response to the drought and resultant tree mortality epidemic. Thank you. Do we have another item on the agenda that we're
Just a
looking at?
GM report.
Oh,
Yeah, just part of
okay.
the GM report.
Let's go to number 7, old business. We have nothing to report. Number 8, general manager's report.
Yes, I just wanted to note, we're going to have a brief update on, just to let you know where things are at on Reach 3A right now on the project. I also wanted to let you know that we have, LAFCO is offering up the AB 1234 training. The ethics training is going to be provided on October 14th. And if anyone's interested in attending, please just let us know. Let Stacy or Mona know, and we'll get you signed up for that. I also wanted to note before we get to the 3A update, that on the long-term conservation work that the state is doing on that, part of that is the on the urban advisory group on that. I just was on a panel at the Aqua Region 3 meeting last Friday about it, and to me it's and I think there's a growing consensus within other areas of the state that want more options on the table from what's currently being considered, that I think we're going to have to push hard for it. One of the things we realized through this is that there has been, the way this has come out, this is all based on the governor's executive order, is saying that, that he wants to make conservation a permanent way of life, and so then there's a charge to the government, to the state agencies, and to take what's in place under our 20 by 2020 requirements that were developed by legislation in 2009, to take those and make them more strenuous and to increase those requirements for indoor and outdoor irrigation, and as well as for water loss, dealing with water loss issues like systems loss. As part of that, the real drive of all of this to date, and what we're seeing and what we expect to come out of a proposal next month from the state, is going to be an approach that is focused on a budget-based approach. And that is one way of conservation that's really looking at the end user and setting performance standards for them, both on indoor and outdoor water use. So it's really designed around, putting a strict cap on the amount of water that is allowed per person for indoor water use. Right now it's 55 gallons per person per day. They're looking to probably tighten that up, maybe go to 45 or even less. And it's also on the outdoor side to put a budget on how much water residents can use outdoors. And it's pretty amazing. There are a number of agencies. These are mainly coastal agencies in urban areas, primarily Southern California, where they're actually using LiDAR and satellite imagery to look at individual parcels and to dissect the actual landscaping that's on the property, to look at trees and determine whether these are irrigated trees or just naturalized trees, and to come up with a budget based on that and the model water efficiency landscape ordinance that was adopted through state legislation, and come up with a calculation for basically each parcel on how much water you're allowed to use your parcel. That's really kind of what's driving the effort at the state on the long-term side now, and what very well we may end up with is the framework that we have been following under the 20 by 2020 provides 4 different options on compliance, methods to comply. The approach that's being advocated as being this next iteration that would supplant that and be applicable to everybody has really, at least for the purposes of 20 by 2020, was only used by less than, it was 3 or 4 agencies in the entire state. But yet that approach is now being embraced, and that's what's being put forward, is that should supplant everything that's in place with 20 by 2020. Our position, and of course that wasn't the methodology we chose. Ours was a flat 20% reduction of our baseline per capita use. We are advocating that, and there's a growing awareness and now effort, and we're actually meeting on a call today, and then we're going to be meeting tomorrow as well on this, to try to come up with another alternative so that we're not stuck with just a budget-based approach that may work well in an urban setting with high density and basically postage, stamp-sized lots and a very uniform, land use. Instead, where you've got, very different land use patterns in rural areas, you've got very different, a lot of variation in size of parcels, you've got, home food production, you've got agriculture, you've got many different uses of water, some of which have very important local benefits and statewide benefits that must be recognized. We're trying to come up with a different framework, a different approach that we can propose in this process that we can hopefully get to be part of what's adopted by the state that they come out in January. And really, they're not going to be put into effect immediately. Most of what's going to be adopted in these recommendations are going to have to be implemented through legislation and regulations. But this will drive the next iteration of conservation requirements, and it will apply to us like all other urban water agencies in the state that qualify under that rubric. So we really want to make sure that we can have some pathway and I know this is a lot of information, but really what we're trying to do, that the budget-based approach, from my perspective and a lot of us, it really feels like a very draconian, heavy-handed approach, and one where we're policing individual customers' water use and making them feel like, we're a big brother government, and we know, how the disdain for that, particularly in our communities. And the fact that, we've been incredibly successful in our program, our conservation program. We continue to see outstanding conservation levels even now. And that's all built on this partnership with the community. We've got the public support for it. We've got, stakeholders, community groups, that realize how, we're all in this together and they want to make a difference. And so we've been able to do it in a real spirit of working together. And we want to build upon that. And I think that's really the perspective that we're taking, and what we're going to try to build in this proposal is let us continue that positive relationship and not have to be, put in a position where we're having to be the heavy-handed regulatory authority, and because we think that's actually counter to the success that we've experienced. So with that, I'll keep the board informed as we move forward. I think by October, we'll have a very good idea about what state is looking at and what our proposal is. And this will be a very important effort for us. Lastly, I'm just going to turn it over to Joel and to Charles to give you a brief update on Reach 3A and where we are right now.
Excuse me, may I make one comment about your presentation? And again, as I'm out and about, I heard from several people that they were very pleased that you gave a very, succinct, understandable presentation
Oh,
at
thank you.
Region 3A.
Thanks.
Can we have that?
Good.
Are we gonna have that before?
Yeah, Joel, why don't you go ahead and give us a
Sorry.
Good morning, President Strange, members of the board. Just here to give you an outlook on Reach 3A when it comes to the public outreach effort that I'm heading up. So far along the project, I've been very pleased with the community response. Everyone's very understanding, and we've made a lot of effort to get information to people early and often, and we've been very successful with that. The most challenging portion of the project is still to come. We have two areas that are our biggest concern. One is the Meadowmont Shopping Center with Big Trees Market there, and the other is the Cedar Center and downtown area. What's going to be happening over the next 3 weeks is the Meadowmont Shopping Center work. In fact, we're going to be having traffic delays beginning even as soon as tomorrow with that. And so we're making sure that businesses know that we're doing work there in advance, but there will be some detours and delays so they're not surprised. And the most important thing is if it comes to the point when we're actually tying the new line in, we want to make sure that we can minimize impacts to that shopping center. And Charles can go into what we're thinking about to minimize those impacts. But just to make sure that the board is confident in our outreach, we are posting regular web updates. We also have a phone line you can call into, and that gets updated regularly along with the website. So if you're a phone person, you can get it that way. And when it comes to the businesses that will be most impacted, I've already gone and spoken to each of them in person, and I plan to do that again as we come into this next phase where they will be impacted, so no one is caught by surprise. And I take calls almost daily from folks who have questions about the project and make sure that they are informed and, again, not surprised by what's going on. So I feel good about where we are, but again, the challenging part is just beginning, and so we're going to have to increase our outreach efforts to make sure that the community is not just okay with this project, but really pleased with how much we communicated with them. Because as Davis told you, we're hoping to hold this up as our first large capital R&R project and hold it up as a model of how to really do this in a way that is impressive to the community, and that's my goal.
Joel, I'd like to make a comment while you're on that subject. I would reach out to Caltrans as it relates to the highway closures, if you're going to have any highway closures, because with the tree cutting that's scheduled for Hathaway Pines area around that lower Forest Service, when you start increasing the number of traffic control and stops, which if they start cutting trees at the same time that we have traffic control, we're into two, and Caltrans really has some challenges with that for good reason. I mean, drivers are very, very impatient, and this is from personal observation when it hits those. So as kind of part of your outreach, if that's possible, that you could reach out to Caltrans and Sierra Mountain Construction, who ultimately is responsible for the traffic control and cutting the trees. That'd be great. They actually have moved up on Highway 108. They moved the tree cutting process off the road while Woods Company resurfaces some of the highway, because they didn't want two traffic controls within a relatively similar but somewhat distant area. So anyway, just FYI.
And if there are any more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Charles. He's going to show some photos with an update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Morning. So this is just a summary of the work completed to date. So when they started on May 18th up to September 14th today, we've got about 65% of the transmission line in. That includes the golf course, the section behind the Moose Lodge up to Sawmill Tank, all on Blaken Road, and a portion from the CAL FIRE facility to along the shoulder of the highway, about 1,250 feet there. And remaining to be done from September 15th to as long as we can work as long as the weather holds out. Currently, they're starting the section from Big Trees Market down to Snowshoe, and then we'll have remaining to complete the work in Cedar Center, along Pine Drive and Oak Circle and Cedar Center, Sequoia, First Street, Dunbar, all that downtown area, Arnold. And there's a little section behind the Moose Lodge that runs through the Moose Lodge driveway and up behind the Moose Lodge on the SBI property. That's about 500 feet there remaining. And so we've made, just a summary of the payments to the contractor. We've paid the contractor a total of $1,377,000, and that's for payments through August, middle of last month, and there's a balance to remain is $2,765,000. And this is the work that was just completed on the golf course, basically from just short of Snowshoe Brewery all the way down to Pine Drive. It's about 4,000 feet. This is the portion that they'll be starting this week from basically Snack, the Rusty Knife, and they're going to be closing Cedar Lane, which is one of the entrances to Big Trees Market, during the next week to complete that section of work, and then they'll be running along the highway down to Snowshoe Brewery. And this is the portions of work up above the Moose Lodge have been completed to Sawmill Tank and from White Pines down to Blagan, but there's that little section there behind the Moose Lodge that has to still get completed, about 500 feet there. And this is going to be the, as we get into November, this is going to be the section of work that's still not completed. So from Pine Drive all through Oak Circle, back through Sequoia Drive, First Street, Dunbar, near the Chevron station, and then across the front of the Evans Pass Fire District. So that's going to be a challenging section just because there's a lot of businesses in that area, a lot of residential services, PRD stations that serve a lot of residential areas, and a lot of traffic, so it's going to be challenging to try to get that done at the end of this year. May not happen. And these are just some photos. So this was several weeks ago. Maybe you've seen this photo. This is where the bore pit's located in front of, that's Big Trees Market in the background. That's just what the bore pit looks like inside. And this has all been finished. The bore under the highway went great. Only took a couple days, and this has all been backfilled and completed. And this was during the last several weeks. They were working on the golf course. This is about midway on the golf course, and these are just some more pictures of them working through the golf course area. Sierra Mountain, TNS Construction. After they've done a good job actually after they're finished of kind of dressing up the surface and restoring it in a fairly reasonable condition. The golf course surprisingly has held up fairly well considering the amount of heavy equipment they've had driving out there. Excavators, large trucks with gravel deliveries, piping material deliveries, so it's actually really well.
Smooth as they used to be.
This is just an example. This is on Meadowview Drive. This is an example of one of our new PRD stations, and this is them. As of yesterday, they were working on Blagan Road. They're digging an excavation there for the PRD 54 replacement next to the existing PRD station. That's the one that serves Hazel Fisher School. And this is on the corner of B Street and White Pines. They're digging the excavation for another PRD station. Yeah, it's a fairly deep excavation, but so anyway, that was it. So if there's any questions.
No questions, just comments. I saw one of the foremen in Chevron this morning, and and I commented to him about the professional level that this construction company is displaying you know, the work they do is just wonderful. If you didn't know it, you know, the whole golf course was just torn up and there was no impact to the traffic on Highway 4. Now, this next phase is gonna be a little different. There will be impact to the traffic because of big trees and what have you, but they clean up after themselves. They, you know, as I say, very professional, and I'd hire them again.
Cool.
And
I definitely agree. They're, I think each contractor has a different kind of way they approach the work, and I think we were lucky that we got TNS on this job because they're very methodical and careful and courteous, and they do think about, you know, cleaning up after themselves and the impacts on the community, so it's.
And, you know, I don't know if Joel's gotten any complaints, but I still don't have any calls about any disgruntled people or, you know.
So, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no anonymous letter into the board or anything?
Oh, no, I didn't get
Ah.
one.
Lucky you.
I have no questions. Thanks, Charles.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Good.
That's all, thank you.
That's it? Okay. Well, thank you, Dave. All right, item number 9, board reports, information, future agenda items, activities that are going on out in the community.
No comment.
Jeff, no comments? Skip?
Tonight is Valley Springs Public Utility District meeting that I'll be attending there. They got I think a rate study on their agenda. And we're just interested to find out where they're at or about a possible regionalization. I'll be bringing that subject up. And I really think the main reason is I think that their proposal is going to be a rate increase of about 63%. And their proposal that they're offering to the public is a brand new sewer plant up on co-property 2 miles from their current plant. And the idea is to pump the sewage 2 miles uphill to this new plant, as opposed to, and that's at least a $2 million, $2 to $3 million more than the proposal that we have on the table for a regionalization project with lock antenna. And it's the idea would be just a wholesale proposal of us just treating their effluent after it gets to their plant. So basically pumping it from their plant to our plant, and they would continue to operate their own plant and not have their own customers, and we would just partner with them. It's just an idea, a proposal that's out there. So we'll be taking a look at that again and seeing what their board decides.
Good. Dennis?
Oh, thank you. Parks and Rec Commission will be meeting the 26th, 6:30. We will be reviewing the 2010 strategic plan, just kind of going back over where we've been in the past to see whether or not the information is still current. Did attend the State of the County with Director Underhill the other day. Tree mortality this Thursday, Murphy's Fire Station, 6 o'clock. I know that CAL FIRE has committed 2 air curtain burner modules to the area, along with a portable mill, 2 wheel chippers and 2 track chippers. But what they're reminding everyone is they're not guaranteeing hand crews. So for those that are going out for grant funding, you may end up with $2,000 a day personnel costs that might not be anticipated. So it's just a warning. But it's an opportunity to discuss private-public partnerships because of the inclusion of the Resource Conservation District concept in the Calaveras County, and how that will play with what CAL FIRE and the Fire Safe Council will be doing going forward. So just a great opportunity for people who want to sit and listen and see what the discussion's all about. That's all I have.
Good, thank you. Bertha?
Okay, yeah, well, monthly, I hope you remember I attend EPOC up in Arnold, and that is all of the subdivisions coming together so that we can share information. And of course, trees are the biggest thing. Blue Lake Springs is wiped out. There are trees in the front yards. All the trees are gone from around the houses because there's no place to take them. And that's the problem that everybody's looking at. Okay, and as Dennis mentioned, I also attended, I was there at the state of Calaveras County. And then I attended my first Parks and Rec, and some very enthusiastic people belong to that committee, and they really are serious about what they want to do. And again, this goes back to the Valley Springs folk who want to do, remember we had that presentation on the big park that they want to put in, so that's what I've been up to.
Good, cool. I only have one thing to say, and I had consulted our council, Matt, on a letter that was addressed to each and every one of us that accused me of doing a lot of things that are not true. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to discuss that, other than those accusations were not true. I don't know who the anonymous person is that sent that in, but if any of you have any questions that you'd like to discuss based upon that letter, feel free to contact me, and I'd be more than happy to share that information with you. And other than that, it's not worth taking up any more time. So I really don't have a lot of other things going on. It's just work schedule's been kind of crazy, involving really all the mortality dead tree stuff, where I got down over in Highway 140 Mariposa last week and looked at the project down there and what some of our staff are doing. And if that degree of mortality continues heading north, which it's supposed to, we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, and that's what's so disappointing. So just be aware. I mean, I'm just seeing 200 and 300 acres of all dead trees. You know, it just, yeah, all that south-facing slope stuff. So be aware. Other than that, then item number 10, next board meetings, Wednesday, September 28th will be our workshop that titled Water Resource Protection Policy and Enforcement of Regulations for Cannabis Cultivation. And then Wednesday, October 12th will be our regular board meeting. Any other comments? Any public comments? No? Seeing none, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.